power panel. Cenk, Uygur, John Iadarola, host of Damage Report. Look at this, Wosny Lambre's back. Writes for The Ringer. He's the host of the Woke Bros podcast, and he is, of course, the Wizard of Woz.
Yes, sir.
All right, great.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be on with you guys, as always.
Excited to have you, brother. All right, let's do it. We got a lot of news for you guys, including some people turning on, some Republican politicians turning on Donald Trump. What is this? I have a theory. All right, John, take it away.
I can't wait to hear it. In fact, why don't we jump right to that? I'm kidding. Let's start with this.
This arraignment happened just shortly after noon. We understand that he went into the courtroom. That's Daniel Penny, the 24-year-old former Marine. He was wearing handcuffs when he went in. I believe we have some video of him coming out when he did not have his hands were not cuffed. We understand that bail has been set at $100,000, that Penny himself put up $6,000, and his parents guaranteed the entire bond.
So of course, that is Daniel Penny, the man who put Jordan Neely in a fatal headlock just last week, has been charged with second-degree manslaughter, has already turned himself in, and now the legal process, of course, has begun. But before we get into evaluating the charges, what we think about that, for those of you who might not have been following the story as it developed over the past week, here is what happened. So shortly after 2 p.m. back on the 1st of May, Jordan Neely walked into the F train at the 2nd Avenue station in New York City and began reportedly shouting that he was hungry and thirsty. According to journalist Juan Alberto Vazquez, who was present, Neely yelled, "I don't have food, I don't have a drink, I'm fed up, I don't mind going to jail and getting life in prison, I'm ready to die." Vazquez said Neely then, quote, removed his jacket and whipped it to the floor of the train. Neely started shouting, and much of the passengers on that subway car cleared out. That is when Daniel Penny apparently pinned Neely to the ground, placed him in a chokehold while 2 other passengers were restraining him. So 3 people were restraining him. Penny was the one with the chokehold. And according to witnesses, Neely had not physically attacked anyone. The person who initiated the physical altercation was Daniel Penny. And as a result of it, of course, Jordan Neely died. That was ruled to be a homicide, and it wasn't until this week that we moved forward on actual charges. Now, in response to this coming out, Alvin Bragg has released a statement saying, after an evaluation of the available facts and evidence, the Manhattan DA's office determined there was probable cause to arrest Daniel Penny and arraign him on felony charges. Jordan Neely should still be alive today, and my thoughts continue to be with his family and loved ones as they mourn his loss during this extremely painful time. The announcement was also met with a statement from New York Mayor Eric Adams, who said last night, "I appreciate DA Bragg conducting a thorough investigation into the death of Jordan Neely. I have the utmost faith in the judicial process, and now justice can move forward against Daniel Penny." Notably, in the early days following the death, Eric Adams had been circumspect, I guess would be the word for his commentary on this, was keeping his cards very close to his chest, but now being more outspoken. We're gonna have statements from the lawyers from both sides, but what do you all think about the fact that there are charges?
Yeah, I actually think that these charges are just right, and I'm gonna explain why in a minute, but I'm curious what Woz thinks, and I wanna go to him first.
I mean, obviously, you guys know this story is a bit near and dear to my heart as a New York City native. I've been on the subway since I can literally remember, been riding the trains. And everybody who's still over there, I now live in Los Angeles, but when I speak to people from home, they feel like the train has become a way more contentious sort of area of New York City life, right? There's just more homeless people on there, more people suffering through mental health crises, and it's created a sort of atmosphere of, I don't want to say panic, but definitely a lot of fear. And I think that atmosphere is what births a situation where a guy, not a freaking cop, not an authority figure, thinks it's his duty somehow to restrain this person, Jordan Neely, and ultimately kill him. It's tragic. I'm happy the cops ultimately found it within themselves to be like, this guy committed a crime against this homeless man, and they arrested him. However, I will say this, because I think it's important. A lot of this is turned into the typical right, left, nonsense, BS, culture war. This guy was lynched, yada, yada, yada. I just happen to not believe that. I don't think people find white or Asian or Latino homeless people to be cute and cuddly. I don't think they feel less menaced by homeless people who are of different races. And I say that about people who happen to not be white. I think there's a framing of this that the people on the subway who might be afraid of homeless people, or this guy who created, who behaved quite recklessly and ended this man's life, are a bunch of Karens. That's not true. It's poor and working normal people using the subway in New York City every single day. And the conditions that happen to be the case now are the results of policy by the state. Okay, it's not individuals not being sufficiently compassionate enough towards homeless people. This is Eric Adams. This is the state of New York's policy. This is a problem that they've created, and the most vulnerable people in our society who cannot fend for themselves out on the streets. They cannot take care of themselves. It's up to the state. These are the people this is the entity with the resources to fix this. It's up to the state to remedy this situation with housing and care, right? And the problems that these people face aren't just one size fits all. Some people are suffering from drug addiction. Other people have mental health issues. Other people have both. Like, this isn't some simple, this black guy got lynched on the subway. No, there's like a greater system at play that produced this outcome. And I would hope that especially people on the left like us could concentrate and focus their energies on the people who actually F this up. Okay?
Yeah.
It's the powers that be.
So let me pick up on that. So the reason I think that it's the right charge is because, look, if Neely had attacked someone on that subway station, then Penny, whether we like it or not, would have had an excellent self-defense case. Would it have been disproportionate? Even if he got attacked, it would have been disproportionate, but it would have been very hard to prove, okay? But I saw some anchor on TV today say this concept of preemptive self-defense. Now, to be fair to Penny's team, it's not, his lawyers aren't saying that, but there is no such thing as preemptive self-defense. It's not a thing that exists, okay? So when you go, Neely, the homeless guy in this case, had not attacked anyone. Now, don't get me wrong, when he says, I don't mind going to jail and getting a life in prison, I'm ready to die. If you're not concerned, you're actually wrong. You should be concerned, and you should get off that subway if you can. And I get the concern. And if there's anybody on the left saying, "Oh no, you're just being a Karen by being concerned," no, you're an idiot. Get out of that subway train because that's a dangerous dude. Okay, and so and we know now in hindsight we know that he was dangerous. So this whole he's just a lovable Michael Jackson impersonator. No, guys, he had deep issues. Okay. That doesn't mean that he should have been killed. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy. He had mental health issues, right? I'm gonna get to what should have happened earlier in a second, right? But it doesn't help anyone's cause if you pretend like he was just a lovable teddy bear that walked in on that day and this guy jumped him and killed him because he was black or homeless or whatever the category is, right? Now, does that mean that Penny had a right to kill him? Absolutely not, absolutely not. He did not take any physical step towards accosting anyone. And guys, if you jumped and choked every homeless person in New York that was screaming loudly in a subway or menacing or threatening, let's keep it real. There's a lot of those folks. You'd be choking a lot of people. Do not do that. Do not do that. It is not self-defense. And I think in this case, it's going to be difficult to prove that Penny had the intent to go murder him. Like, I looking for a guy, there he is. And by the way, it's not impossible to prove because look, to me, there's a giant chunk we don't know yet. So we know we saw the choking, but we never saw the beginning of the video. We have witnesses, and by the way, Penny's own lawyer says that he was aggressively threatening people. In other words, he did not attack anyone, he did not hit anyone. So that part is clear. The part that's not clear is, did Penny jump him from behind? Was there any alternative? Was there why did he do this? Like, for example, was he looking for trouble? Like, to me, I call it the Rittenhouse standard. Rittenhouse went and looked for trouble. He's like, oh, I've got a weapon. I'm gonna go into the middle of what I view to be a riot. And if anybody throws a plastic bag at me, or there's a shot nearby, or there's a skateboarder that's, et cetera, I got it. I know that Rittenhouse was probably very scared at that moment, right? But he didn't need to go and look for that trouble. So if it turns out Penny wanted that trouble, went and looked for that trouble, and then jumped the guy from behind, I'd say these charges are not enough, right? But if it turns out, as witnesses are describing now, Penny jumps the guy before he'd done any attack, the second-degree manslaughter sounds about right, okay? So now, and by the way, that way you can get a conviction. If you overcharge, you won't get anything, right? So I know for a lot of folks, no, you have to go extreme on every single thing, but we're not in that camp. Look, one more thing about what Woz is saying. So when you go to help this guy, and he had a lot of violent episodes. He punched a 67-year-old woman in the face and broke her face, broke her nose, her orbital bone, etc. He punched and assaulted a Mexican guy who was a migrant, who lives in Harlem, to Woz's point about just a working poor guy. And the guy's like, whoa, this guy's dangerous, etc. There's no question he was dangerous. There is a question as to whether he was dangerous at that moment. That is a critical question in this case. But guys, so what do we do with that? Well, he'd already been arrested. They already did a diversion program. He should have been arrested. I like that there's a diversion program. That's good. Where the system failed was that institutionalizing him was voluntary. But he's not in shape to make that rational decision on whether he should be or shouldn't be institutionalized. I think it should have been involuntary. And by the way, if you say, oh, that takes his freedom away, you guys aren't getting it. This isn't about freedom, and I'm not interested in your libertarian right-wing point of view. No, it's about making sure that you protect not only everyone else, but Neely too. So what did he do? He walked out of that diversion program on day 13, and then this happened, right? If he couldn't walk out, not only would other people be safer, but he'd be alive. He'd be alive. You're not doing him any favors by sending him back out in the street when he's punching random people in the face. None of that justifies his death. None of it does. If Penny jumped him like it looks, he should be found guilty, okay? But the overall issue is much more important, as Woz said.
Yeah, and you sort of sketched out some hypotheticals that could theoretically, at least in my I'm not a lawyer, my non-expert opinion, could lead to, I think, stronger charges. But it's weird that I feel the need, I don't know if you guys feel the need, to remind people that you do not only suffer legal consequences for killing someone when you intentionally murder them, you can accidentally kill people and you will suffer consequences as a result of that. And you can do stuff that's way less obviously risky than literally using a chokehold. We should not need in 2023 to point out to people that what a chokehold is it's choking someone, and especially in New York City, that can result in a person dying. It is super risky to do that, to hold it for a very long time, especially when multiple of the people are holding them down. If two people are like pushing each other and you pull one away and he trips and hits his head and bleeds out, you could suffer consequences for that. That's way less sustained risk than holding someone down and keeping a chokehold going. And for some reason, like I'm glad that Woz brought up the sort of the needless left and right, back and right. I mean, look, there is a very sustained campaign right now in response to these charges on the right that this guy is obviously a massive hero. There should be nothing. They're not like angry because the jury has now come in and he's spending 15 years in prison. And by the way, he could spend 5 to 15 years in prison. They're simply angry that there is going to be a legal process at all. They don't want there to be. They don't want him to be booked. They don't want there to be charges. They want him to talk for 2 minutes to a cop and then go on about his day. The same people, by the way, that in everything else in their politics, they would say that they're for personal accountability and responsibility. You're responsible for what you do. Even if we assume, as you are, that he wasn't going and looking for trouble, he wasn't trying to murder someone, he doesn't have an online history of like rabid racism or anger at the unhoused, or let's say he doesn't have any of that. When you jump in that way, It's not like you get everything that happens from that free because you had good motivations or whatever, and that's even assuming that you did. That's simply not how the world exists, and it's super weird to have to point that out to full-grown adults.
I'm gonna say a couple more things about that, because I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he didn't want to kill him. I don't know. There's no evidence to that effect that anyone has said yet, right? So when some people on the left says, "Oh, I know he wanted to," like Woz said, "I know he wanted to," and he was saying that you shouldn't be saying this. He wanted to lynch him. He wanted to do this. How do you know? By the way, we might be able to prove that later, because now he's raising money on like these like Christian sites. I don't mean like Christian as in like, hey, want to go to church on Sunday? But as in super right wing, the same people who raised money for Rittenhouse, etc. So John is right. These are instant fandom. Hey, you murder someone that you probably shouldn't have killed and they're in the wrong category, the right wing's gonna celebrate you.
Which really fast, even that doesn't necessarily mean that he's this bad guy. He might be desperate and need the money, and that's the only place to get it. We don't know.
Exactly. What we're asking for is something super basic, but we're not getting it from any political camp, which is, for the left, you don't know his intent yet. It might be terrible, in which case I'm gonna get 10,000 times angrier, right? Because intent matters. It matters in the law, and it matters in judging a situation, right? For the right to assume that he was doing self-defense when none of the evidence indicates that, come on, like, I don't know. I don't know if they care at all about the facts, but the facts matter. And again, I think this is the right charge. It probably, based on what we know so far and the prosecutors know more, it seems like they got the right balancing act. Woz, I want to give you one more opportunity here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really give a damn what the right has to say about this. They're gonna be hysterical and ridiculous no matter what. I think objectively we can say, had the white boy not intervened, most likely 99% of the chance nobody would have died. Somebody only died but for this guy's intervention. I don't think anybody can make the credible, a credible assessment that Neely was about to kill somebody. So that to me that's useless with engaging. But what I will say to people on the left, for folks to understand, what Eric Adams is going to do in New York City specifically, he has already broadened the scope by which you can detain these folks. And what's ultimately going to happen, because we have no infrastructure of care work to give these people care. We have no infrastructure to house folks in New York City. And so what ultimately is going to happen is they are just going to mass incarcerate people who don't have homes. That's going to be what the result of this is. And that's horrible. That is terrible. That is not the answer of how we deal with this stuff. Because again, these are the most vulnerable people in the society. And so, yeah, if people want to concentrate on some alleged race war or some, whatever, I don't even know, culture war kind of thing, I think they're missing the point. A lot of people are frustrated with the situation of what's happening with the unhoused, people suffering from drug addiction and mental health breakdowns. And a lot of these people, again, are not some bougie, bourgeois, hoity-toity New York City elite. And I'll get off of this by telling people this. Back in the days, the sort of myth that people would tell each other in New York is that the subway, everybody rides it, from the migrant worker to the Wall Street bro and everybody in between. And it's just this whole melting pot. That is nonsense in 2023. There are no rich people taking the train every single day. The people who are on the train and who are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, who might suffer an attack from somebody having a mental health breakdown, are poor and working people by a mile. There might be a sliver of people, yes, exceptions of people who take the train. This isn't some Karen issue. I need to stress that to people. These are normal people who depend on this mode of transportation to get themselves to and from work and wherever else. And they're the ones dealing with this.
Yeah, I just gotta double down on everything that Woz is saying. Like there are very few elites left taking the subway in New York. There are no elites taking the bus in LA or Denver or Washington, okay? So these are definitely working class folks who are suffering because of the wrong system that we have. And I'll double down on something John said too, which is the chokehold. That's a sleeper hold. You cannot hold that for longer than 30 seconds. You're gonna endanger the guy's life. Hold it for 15 minutes and you're a Marine? Nah, that's crazy, okay? So be real on that too. And the last thing is, look guys, mass incarceration is not the answer either. We criticized some people who are jumping the gun on the left, the right, but I'm also gonna criticize the middle here, the moderate, and I consider Mayor Adams to be a moderate in New York. And okay, you wanna institutionalize people, but if you don't offer them actual services, healthcare, to actually make them better, you just stuff them in one place, that isn't gonna help at all. Then they're gonna tear each other apart. And that doesn't help them, that doesn't help the community, etc. Can we please do something that is smart and reasonable? Spend the money towards helping these folks, but demand that they actually get the help and use the help, okay? And that's not a mean thing to do, okay? That's actually something that actually helps them. You're not helping their freedom if you let someone who is having a mental breakdown out in the street. It's going to cause him much greater harm. He's in much greater danger if you don't help him. But stuffing him into a dark corner is not the answer. So for God's sake, give the money in a proportional way that is reasonable. By the way, that I bet you the overwhelming majority of citizens of New York would agree with. So instead, we put all of the money into the police budget and then do these half measures that wind up being a total disaster for everyone involved. All right.
With that, I think we should take our first break. We got a lot to get to after this.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and Woz with you guys. Chris Birch gifted 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube, which is amazing. Nice. Then Lauren McRae with 20. Damn. Lauren, you're just, you might be, as Ben Mankiewicz would say, the boat. The best of all time. Okay, but there are a lot of folks who are in contention for the boat. Woz, we're gonna have to get you on an old school to adjudicate between the goat and the boat. There's a new controversy, it has to be settled, but that's for another day. All right, so if you want to be a member, by the way, or upgrade, you hit the join button below the video on YouTube or go to tyt.com/join. John's got more news.
I do. Let's jump right into it.
That he is a loser. And I, as a Republican, as a 4-time winning Republican, I'm tired of losing. We should have won in 2020. 2, we lost. We should have won in 2020. We got everything our clock clean because of his leadership and his message isn't getting it done. I supported him in 2016. I supported him in 2020. But he's a 3-time loser going on to be a 4-time loser. And it's not just him that I'm worried about. I'm worried about the US Senate races. I'm worried about the governorships. I'm worried about the ballot that he affects up and down the ticket.
Donald Trump, a loser, not just a loser, a 3-time loser, soon to be a 4-time loser. Now, you might hear that sort of talk on CNN normally, well, probably not anymore, but in the past, maybe a little bit. But you probably don't often hear it from Republicans being willing to so aggressively attack Donald Trump. And this is all being generated, of course, by what he said and what he did at the town hall on CNN. That was Chris Sununu attacking Donald Trump. He's not the only one, by the way. Senator Todd Young from Indiana is criticizing him, as well as Lindsey Graham criticizing him for his positions on Russia and Ukraine, which he made very clear during that town hall. Take a look at this.
President Trump's judgment is wrong in this case. President Putin and his government have engaged in war crimes.
I mean, does it worry you that your party's leading presidential candidate is advancing?
Of course it does. That's why I don't intend to support him for the Republican nomination.
Where I differ with President Trump is if we end this war and Putin's still standing, he's unaccountable for the war crimes. You don't end the war, you just create more conflict.
I think people saw last night what they would get with another term of Donald Trump as president, which is completely untethered to the truth, uncertain as to whether he wants Russia or Ukraine to win in the brutal conflict which Russia has imposed on Ukraine. I think it was a great opportunity for the people of America America to see just exactly who it is Donald Trump has become.
And it's not just that, other Republicans were attacking him for different stances that he took during the town hall. Some did not like that he pointed out once again that he was going to pardon many of those who attempted to overthrow the government on January 6th. It's years out from that. Many of them would just love to move on, but Donald Trump, of course, is not gonna let them. Josh Hawley said, if you're asking me, do I think we should pardon people who engage in rioting behavior? No, which is a pretty big change in his stance from fist in the air and then eventually running as fast as he could down a hallway to, of course, we shouldn't be pardoning these people. So for different reasons, different politicians all coming out against Donald Trump. So not everybody enjoyed his performance at the town hall.
Here's my first reaction to this. Drums. Okay, that is a lot of Republican senators. So here's the real conclusion, and I think this one's pretty important. They must have polling we don't have, or they must know something we don't know, because first of all, he cowed all those guys, and he's done it many, many times before. Every once in a while, they'll poke their head out and be like, Trump not so good, and he'll smash their head, and then they'll go, oh, Trump's the best, I love him, I'm so sorry. Now, Mitt Romney hasn't done that, to be fair to him. He's only partially done that. There was that reek moment when he was lobbying for Secretary of State. But like Josh Hawley and Lindsey Graham are class, first class bootlickers, right? Josh Hawley did exactly what Trump wanted on that day. So now they're turning around. They're not turning around because all of a sudden they found a conscience, okay? So if you see it in mainstream media, I don't want you to get tricked into thinking like, I wonder if they looked at that town hall and finally realized, well, golly gee, this Trump guy, he is, he's a bit of a bastard, isn't he? Okay, no, come on guys. So they've decided for whatever reason, pretty much it looks like almost en masse, including John Cornyn, the #2 Republican in the Senate, all coming out at the same time going, not Trump, not Trump. When the public polls seem to indicate he's got about a 30-point lead on DeSantis. If that's true and there was no other factor, I guarantee you that those senators would not have said those things. So either they got some sort of poll that says Trump's gonna lose in a way that we can't see with our own eyes, or they have polling showing if you back Trump, even in Indiana, you're gonna lose. Like the polling's so bad for those senators for the general election that they're like, no, if I go in the direction of being anti-choice and pro-Trump, I can't survive a general election. The last possibility is the donors came in with overwhelming money. And they're like, look, we all got bribe you guys on a regular basis anyway. You guys are all gonna do what we want. But this Trump thing's not messing around, okay? We really don't like Trump. So here is an irresistible vat of money, even if he comes for you. But remember, if you all work together, maybe you could do it. Go get him, Tigers. But this isn't normal. Something happened behind the scenes, I guarantee it.
I don't know. I think for me, what caught my eye was the sort of sticking point for most of those guys was the Ukraine thing, which that sticks out to me because it's the one thing in Washington and amongst all of the foreign policy elite, they're all in lockstep on. Everybody is in lockstep with supporting Ukraine, sending billions upon billions of dollars at the wave of a pen. Nobody hems and haws. Nobody talks about fiscal responsibility. Nobody ever does any of that on either side of the aisle when Ukraine comes up. So I thought that was interesting that that's what they sort of ding them on, because everybody over there agrees that we're running this Ukraine playbook to a T. Everybody does. So I'm like, that's like coming out against that. That doesn't mean anything to me. Honestly, I feel like they're betting on a short memory of everybody, of the media, of the US public, that if, by the time Trump wipes the floor with DeSantis and turns him into his next little lackey bootlicker, everybody will have forgotten that Mitt Romney was upset that Trump didn't give a full-throated support and embrace of the effort in Ukraine.
it's possible. Or on January 6th or whatever. Maybe they really just do believe that at some point he'll move on, but not showing any sign of it. I want to give an update though on one of the worst parts of that town hall. There were a lot of points in the CNN Trump town hall that were distressing, I guess is an easy way to put it. But few were like just openly reprehensible. And I think one of the worst was when Donald Trump led some sort of CNN-backed roast of E. Jean Carroll in the immediate aftermath of him being labeled as a sexual predator by a jury. He's gonna owe her $5 million. That did not stop him at all from attacking her, and that might be consequential. In case you missed that moment though, here's what it looked like.
Wasn't raped, okay? That was her charge. It wasn't.
They found that you sexually abused her.
No, what? Say what they did. They said he didn't rape her. And I didn't do anything else either. You know what? Because I have no idea who the hell she is.
But Mr. President,
I don't know who this woman is.
Yeah, so he's focusing on the fact that they didn't label it as actual rape, but they said that he sexually abused her. Doesn't matter. He conveniently is going to frame that however he wanted. And they laughed when he said he didn't know her, and they laughed some more, and they laughed and they laughed and they laughed as he continued to attack her. Well, the thing about it was though, many of the claims that he was making are the exact same claims that made the lawsuit not go his way just earlier this week. He was defaming her this week on CNN in the same exact way that he's spent years defaming her. It's already been established that that can be adjudicated in court in a way that doesn't benefit him. And so some of you might be wondering, are we just gonna have another round 2 of this? And we might actually. Roberta Kaplan, who was also herself attacked by Donald Trump during previous testimony, said everything's on the table, obviously, and we have to give serious consideration to it. Carroll was interviewed, I believe, by the New York Times and said that she has considered suing him for what she just experienced. There's also another defamation lawsuit still ongoing, by the way, and so we might be in this for a bit. What do y'all think?
There was a lot of awful parts, not just within the whole town hall, but even within that E. Jean Carroll segment. I mean, he went on to weirdly say that her cat is named Vagina. He's like an Austin Powers character. He's like Dr. Evil, and unfortunately the audience was the minions, right? Like, and they and he smeared her for being a racist against her own husband. I mean, there's just no end to the depravity of Donald Trump. Now, you've heard me say yesterday on the show, I think it's better that we know. I don't believe in this not platforming stuff. He's the leading Republican candidate. You're not gonna be able to keep him off of the air. I think that's absurd. And everyone always makes excuses for MAGA voters than they saw with their own eyes. And like, why is there just this overwhelming reaction today? Is it because we all just found out that Donald Trump's a monster? No, we all knew that, right? I think that people are much more horrified at the crowd's reaction, that they laughed along with Trump on all of those things as he went after this woman and as he went after everybody and said all these crazy things. But that's what I've been saying for years now. Wake up. A third of the country loves what he's saying. And it makes people so uncomfortable. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. That's why like mainstream media is like, no. Because my whole life, and if you're younger, you might not know this. Like for 40 straight years, especially before the last 10 years, everyone on TV, everyone in print journalism would say center-right country. This is a center-right country, center-right, center-right, center-right. We're all right-wing, conservative, right-wing, conservative, and the real Americans, the ones that live in Kansas, not San Francisco. It wasn't just Bill O'Reilly. Mainstream media ate that stuff up. They propagated that for decades on end. And that's why it's creating cognitive dissonance. They see that crowd go, yeah, make fun of the woman you sexually abused, yeah. And they go, well, we've been telling America that these are the real Americans. We've been telling the audience the whole time, these guys represent us. Oops. Yeah, well, better that you see it now because that's coming down the pike. And Democrats, their number one thing that they love to do, and now including the entire establishment, Anna Navarro, I don't know if she's still a Republican or was a Republican a second ago. She's on The View today saying, oh, I hear people talking about how Biden's too old or Kamala Harris is too this. Well, why don't you all shut up and vote for him anyway? Winning strategy. And she's like, you see what's on the other side. Yeah, and we've been seeing it the whole time. That's why we told you not to pick Hillary Clinton and this time don't pick Joe Biden. He's not at 50% like he was last time. He's at 36%. You're saying, look at the monster on the other side. So let's go walk into our defeat. No, let's pick a way, way better candidate. So I think that E. Jean Carroll, by the way, has every right to sue him again for defamation and should take another $5 million off his ass. You've got to be able to hold these two ideas in your head at the same time. Trump is a terrible human being. He is currently leading the race for president, and you're not going to be able to shut him up. In fact, today, we made it official. We're inviting Donald Trump to a town hall on TYT. Come and see. We'd love to have you. Hey, maybe you could win over our progressive audience. And by the way, to all the doubters who say you cannot conduct any kind of interview, town hall, or any other event with Donald Trump without getting steamrolled, let's see what happens. Maybe Trump will come on here and he'll do such a fantastic job like he thinks he did on CNN, and he'll win over the progressive audience. Come and see. Was.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to picture Donald Trump sitting in John's seat right now with Cenk, and Cenk asking him about grabbing women by the pee and that type of thing. It's just I don't know. That's quite the vision. As far as his town hall appearance, this is Donald Trump. This is what he does. He's always going to double down. He's not going to just deny it. He's going to say it's the opposite. He's gonna crush you. He's gonna say, "Oh, you're an idiot for even asking that." This is the exact playbook he's run since he's sort of emerged on the public stage. So I can't say that I'm surprised. But the only thing I will disagree with Cenk on, and only slightly, as far as the Donald Trump fan, I think that the self-selection of guy or gal who thirstily goes to a Donald Trump town hall, I don't know that they're necessarily representative of every single Donald Trump voter. That's where I will slightly, and only slightly, disagree on the general, depravity, quite frankly, of Donald Trump's biggest fans.
Yeah. So Waz, I hear you on that, but look, let me just be clear. No, he doesn't represent everybody. That's obvious. He doesn't get 100% of the vote on the Republican side. At the same time, he is leading by 30 points.
It's fair. It's fair. And this is the thing too. I think some of the things that endeared Donald Trump in the beginning to Republican voters, I think still stands. When I see guys like Mitt Romney come out against Donald Trump, that's exactly what they like about him. He is not the cookie cutter establishment figure that these other cats are. And that's what they like about him more than anything, right? These quote unquote rhinos who basically wagged their fingers and was like, no, we know what's best for you. We pick your representatives for you. We don't want to, pick representatives that more align with how you feel. These are the things that they liked about Donald Trump and what propelled him to victory against guys like Jeb with an exclamation point, right? And so I don't know. I think these things sort of serve that image of him to his people when he goes on TV and doubles down on his insanity.
Yeah, back to agreement. His anti-establishment, talking points, because it's not real. He would love to be part of the establishment, et cetera. But it is very effective. And that's why a lot of people love Trump, not necessarily because they're racist, et cetera. I think it's 50-50. I think Hillary Clinton was exactly right. Half of them are people who are just mad at the establishment, having a hard time in life, et cetera. Another 50% are the deplorables. And I don't mind saying that at all. Yeah.
Well, why don't we take our last break of the hour? I think when we come back, Elon Musk is bringing in some help at Twitter. We're going to evaluate what effect we think they'll have after this.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, Woz, and Richard Hayway. Richard just joined. We appreciate it. He hit the join button below the video on YouTube. That's how you become a member. You get all of our programming anytime you want, and you help us put this show together. And I love doing the show with the members. Also, tyt.com/join to become a member. John.
Yes, let's jump into it. This morning, Elon Musk announced that he's going to be stepping aside as CEO of Twitter. Replacing him will be the woman that you're seeing on the side of the screen, Linda Yaccarino, former ad sales chief at NBC Universal. We're gonna be diving into what we know about her background, but before even that, you should know that like pretty much every business decision Elon Musk has made in the past couple of years, people are not happy about this. But what makes this particular announcement unique is that pretty much no one is happy about this, including people who have spent the last year and a half plus with no hobby more near and dear to their heart than licking his boots on a daily basis. And it has to do with her prior work. So we're gonna dive into all of that. But first, here's the announcement. Elon Musk saying, I'm excited to welcome Linda Yaccarino as the new CEO. She'll focus primarily on business operations while I focus on product design and new technology. So if you are a fan of, for instance, what he has done to the blue check, don't worry, he's still going to be in charge of the creative process. Looking forward to working with Linda to transform this platform into X, the everything app, which he believes people want Twitter to become. I've seen no evidence of that, but he's staking billions and billions of dollars on it. Anyway, if you can't win over cat turd, as the saying goes, how are you gonna win over everyone else? Cat turd responded to this saying, Elon Musk, the woke mind virus is a threat to the world. Also, Elon Musk, I just hired a far left loon deeply infected with the woke mind virus to run Twitter. Twitter 2.0 was fun while it lasted. Get ready for it to suck again. Jesus, cat turd, calm down, buddy, okay? Anyway, Dalton bro, another person says, again, I don't know who this person is. They have a blue check, so someone important, I don't know. I think I speak for many when I say the reason I pay $8 a month is so that you wouldn't choose someone like that to run Twitter. Great job. And look, if you cannot expect in good faith that paying the richest man in the world $8 a month doesn't give you veto power over who becomes CEO, what can you have faith in anymore? Anyway, DK says, WEF member, the World Economic Forum, agent of the New World Order. Just like you can't fool me, Elon. So lots of people are really mad for a lot of different reasons. There was invocations of the woke mind virus because you need to understand, and I get why they're concerned. Linda Yaccarino wore masks during the pandemic. So obviously she's a psychopath. And she was a part of the World Economic Forum, which exists as a real entity in the real world, and then also exists for right wingers as like the spawning pod for lizard elites. I don't know, but they have a lot of theories about what it means to be a part of it. In any event, her expertise, to the extent that she appears to have it, is on ad sales, and Elon Musk is desperate to sell more ads because just trying to get $8 a month from people like Cat Turd is not actually paying the bills. Yeah. What do you think?
Look, Cernovich is a guy who used to be considered the very extreme of the right wing, alt-right, just supernova toxic, right? Now he's saying, oh, you got extremists on the left and extremists on the right against her, so she must be the right choice. So I get two things out of that, okay? Number one, if Cernovich is not at the extreme right wing, the extreme right wing is now on a different planet entirely, right? So, and they are, and you could tell, right? So, I mean, the reactions here are hilarious. She's a right winger. She was put on a council by Donald J. Trump. She follows Cat Turd and all the other lunatics. She seems to be a bona fide, deep, weirdo right winger, okay? I don't really know that, guys. I just know who she follows, that Trump likes her. She seems to be right wing. Elon Musk really likes her, etc. Do I know her whole heart and her whole history? No, I don't know, okay? But of course, everybody on the internet does, okay? But by all accounts, based on her resume, she's a conservative, right? They're like, no, she once wore a mask. Rip her face off. Like, I mean, what's hilarious though is what did you expect? Did you expect that he was, a cat turd also I think said like, oh, it's just like more CEOs from one multi-billion-dollar company going to another multi-billion-dollar company. They never pick any outsiders who have no business experience. Good reason for that. Like in politics, I think you should pick outsiders. But I added the part about with no business experience, but whoever that is said like, can you believe they're not picking outsiders? But you need business experience. That's like
if you don't have it, you end up with something like Elon Musk.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be like, oh my God, and I got all the love in the world for gardeners, but like, hey, let's take you and make you the head of Twitter. He doesn't know how to do the job. There's like if you put me as a mechanic, I don't know how to do the job. You can't have a rando do it. It's like they're like, oh, I can't believe you picked a business person. And then this is my absolute favorite part. It looks like all he wants to do is make money.
No, Cenk, he wants free speech.
They just figured it out, Woz. They just figured it out.
Yeah, at the time when Elon acquired the company, there were like actually smart people who follow this tech stuff. Like my guy Ben Thompson, who was like, yo, this has the potential to be a great thing because Twitter has been such a rudderless company, and now that it's under one leadership, a guy can come in and break things and start doing things a different way and build it up and make it a better company. However, you don't just break things for the sake of breaking it. You say, all right, we're not gonna do things this way, we're doing it a different way, and have the vision and the patience to actually see these ideas through. That's not what Elon did. He did the opposite. He said, let's break this, then break that, then reverse course, then come back, then do this. And it's like obviously not working, and he's failing at it. And what I would tell these people who wanna tie ideology into all of this crap, what makes a social network successful is that a lot of people want to use it. The reason why a lot of people want to use it is because the social network is curating and creating pleasant experiences for said people. That is even true on Twitter, which is by far the most miserable of all of the social media apps, right? And so that's it. They have to create a product that people like. The Chinese government is not importing communist ideals into TikTok. I'm sorry, they just giving people cat videos because they know that's what they like and moving on with their lives. Like this isn't some conspiracy, it's not rocket science. It's just the business of this particular part of the economy, which is social networks.
Yeah,
that's it. It's not that hard to understand.
So look, I think, yeah, exactly. He wants to make money. He wants to make Twitter what he thinks it needs to be. At least from my point of view, and obviously I'm biased, he has a terrible read on what people want out of Twitter, and he is completely incapable of even pursuing the stupid goals that he has. So he doesn't know what he's doing, so you bring in an expert or whatever, an expert at least on ad sales, and she's not gonna be the one calling the shots. He can have whatever title he wants or no title at all. He's the one who's gonna be calling the shots until he decides that he's interested in corgis or something, or bicycles, I don't know, and then that's what he's going to be doing 24 hours a day. In the same way that he was briefly interested in tunnels and briefly interested in like flamethrowers and briefly interested in Mars, and now he doesn't remember any of that stuff. So I don't know her, I don't know her heart. I also really don't care because, look, I'm gonna keep it real, honestly, I don't really care what happens to Twitter at this point. Like, I know that there are people like Cat Turd that think it's fun or whatever. How many people are actually in that group? How many people think that Twitter's best days are in front of it? So the question I guess I have for you guys is, how many or any of you do you think that she will actually be successful in getting people to want to use it again? And more importantly, that's not really what she's there to do. She's there to use her business contacts for her business career to get people to advertise on it again because they desperately need money. The issue is, for his entire career, or at least for the last 15 years, he was able to, by the mere presence of him in a company, make it seem interesting and dynamic and cool. Along the way, he generated an aura of supposedly knowing about coding or engineering when he doesn't seem to know anything about any of those things. But it's all flipped now. Now it is, even if he were to back off of Twitter, he has tainted it with his toxic presence. And how do you untaint a social media site that, as Woz pointed out, was already hated quite a bit before Elon Musk made it worse.
Yeah. So look, why did he hire her? Simplest thing in the world. There's two reasons why. He's not the only owner of Twitter. He got a whole bunch of his super rich friends to put in.
He got a lot of loans.
Yeah, exactly. He got a lot of loans, and he got a bunch of his rich friends to put in billions of dollars on top. And now they all have buyer's remorse. It's not worth anywhere near $44 billion. And he's not good at running it. Plus, the people who have Tesla stock, et cetera, are saying, hey, why are you spending your entire time on this failure of a business when you actually have a business that could succeed, and that actually is where all of your money is coming from? So you better hurry up and get the hell back to actual business. So that's part one. Part two is, of course, John's right. Her giant expertise is ad sales. She was head of ad sales for NBC Universal. That's her whole thing. She's got to bring in what? The money, Lebowski. Okay, that's how businesses work. When the right wing realized that he wasn't doing it just for freedom of speech, the ability to say racist things on Twitter. It turns out it wasn't for that. It was for money. Okay, of course, right? And now, by the way, some of them are attacking her for literal. Okay, this was in my comment section. For being a woman, and they're like, Cenk, you don't understand. We're not attacking her because we're conspiracy theorists. We're attacking her because she's a woman.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Wait, are you sure that makes it better?
Elon has been infected with the woke mind virus. Even Elon has been infected. It's almost like The Last of Us.
In fact, but they really think that. So one of the charges is she's a woman. She's going to get. They say she's going to get emotional. They're unbelievable. They're unbelievable. Okay, and then they say, oh, she says on her resume that she cares about diversity. Boo!
Kill her!
Lock her up at least.
She's a witch.
And guys, look, if it sounds like we're making fun of you, if you're an extreme right-wing conspiracy theorist, you are finally hearing something correctly. Okay, that is true, we are. But I need you to focus. It doesn't mean that the establishment is lovely. Like, you hate the establishment, right? I got it, you're not wrong about that. But that doesn't mean lizard people run the world. The World Economic Forum is basically a neoliberal organization, which ironically in our political terminology means a conservative organization. They're like, oh, they're gonna kill everybody. No, they're not. How would they make money off of them if they killed them all? No, their big grand scheme is to make more money. Okay, it's not complicated. They're not coming for your lives, they're coming for your wallet. And so focus, I know it's impossible for you guys, and Cernovich likes her, that means she's definitely a right winger. She's gonna try to bring these people super fine. And the last thing is it gonna work? Well, now they're in a conundrum, because just earlier in the week, they bring in Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson, especially if they rig the algorithm, will have tons of people watching him on Twitter, okay? But the problem is advertisers hate Tucker Carlson. And in fact, 40 of them came back to Fox News when Tucker was fired. So she's now gonna have to try to go get advertisers when their biggest star is gonna be a guy that advertisers don't want any part of, partly because he pushes cat turd conspiracy theories about how you gotta, laser your crotch to be a man or something, right? So that's going to be an impossible job. So good luck to her.
I wouldn't worry too much for her. I'm sure she's being paid a ridiculous sum of money.
Oh, of course. But will she be able to make Cat Turd happy?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, exactly.
Yeah. We'll keep our eyes on the litter box.
Pray for Cat Turd, y'all. I'm keeping them in my thoughts and prayers. Or her, or they, or whatever.
Who knows, who cares?
Okay, all right. Everybody check out Woz on the Ringer and the Woke Bros podcast. Everybody check out John on Damage Report. We got an unbelievable second hour coming up. A rare Casper appearance on a Friday Power Panel. What is this? All right, we'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.